Thank you so much, Saxton. Appreciate you working with us today to make this happen. My name is Brian Devore. I'm Open's Professional Development Director, working closely, of course, with US Games as well as BSN Sports and all of Varsity Brands. So super thrilled this year. First of all, for myself, because I get to attend the National Summit this year in Greeley, Colorado. So was working on my session title to submit. Tomorrow's the last day to submit sessions. So was getting ready to get that in, and we have some of our Open National Training team that's going to be there. But today, what we want to do is learn a little bit more about the summit in general. So I'm going to toss things over to Nick Kline. Nick, give us an introduction and tell us all about this wonderful summit that you have created out there.
Yeah, great. So Brian, can you see the screen? Just want to make sure
Sure
it's
can.
sharing
Yes, sir.
properly. So I just want to make sure everyone knows who Open is or who Active Schools is, and then we'll get more into about who Open is and why you're supporting the summit. So Active Schools is part of Action for Healthy Kids. That's our home organization. And we have a vision that all youth are educated in the active school because we know that the benefits that physical activity provides. So we want all students to have the opportunity to be involved in an environment or an active school culture, one that supports physical activity. So our target audience is anyone and everyone who can influence that. So teachers, staff, administrators, parents, program providers, anyone and everyone. We have 3 big campaigns throughout the year, one of which is co-sponsored by Open. So that is Family PE Week. We will be getting some more information about that out here in the coming weeks, but mark your calendars for that first week in October. We just wrapped up Active Classrooms Month, and then look out for Play All May, which is coming up here in just a few short days. But that's not really why we're here. We're here to talk about the summit, but leading up to that, I want to highlight the school recognition process. So this is a way where we provide recognition to schools who apply for any of these 9 essential elements. I will link more information about that in the chat box coming up. The reason why I point out school recognition is because if you apply and are recognized in 5 or more badges, you get to send 1 person for free and 3 additional people at 50% off to the summit. So I want to make sure that's known. And the next application deadline is at the end of May. So there's still a full month that you can apply for recognition. And if applying for 5 or more elements is too much, you can apply for 3 or 4 and still receive a registration at 50% off. However, you don't need to be a recognized school. Anyone and everyone is welcome at the summit. So all those stakeholders that I mentioned can be part of this summit. So that's teachers, support staff, administrators, anyone who's involved in curriculum, anyone who's involved in wellness, of course, health and PE teachers, anyone who's part of the PTO or PTA that supports the school in one way or another. We have program providers, our supporting organizations who are the exhibitors and whatnot. We have sessions for all of you. So we'll still give you a 20% off deal. I'll drop that here in the chat, which brings the cost down to just $240. That $240 includes 5 meals over the course of those 3 days. So you get a really delicious lunch and dinner on Wednesday, which is the 17th. You get breakfast and lunch on Thursday. So Thursday dinner, you're on your own, which is the only meal. And then Friday, we give you a great buffet breakfast. So we feed you really well. We create this close, intimate opportunity for you to make those connections during and outside of those meals, which we'll talk about more here coming up. So I'm gonna get out of the screen sharing here so we can introduce our guests. That's just a really quick rundown, but I'm gonna first pass it over to Keith to do a quick introduction, and then we'll turn it over to Tamara.
Hello, everybody. My name is Keith Furstenberg. I am a PE teacher here in Freeholm, Georgia. Teach K-5, and I'm really excited to be a part of this whole experience. I've been teaching for 25 years and looking forward to being part of this panel and being out there at the Active School Summit again this year.
And Tamara, you want to give us, tell us who you are?
Yes, my name is Tamara Brown, and I am from Louisiana. I work for a nonprofit here in Louisiana called Eat, Move, Grow, and we're tasked with doing health education for rural schools here in Southeast Louisiana. So we're here to combat the childhood obesity rates here in Louisiana, and we do that through education with around physical education and around nutrition education. Last year was my first year at the conference. I had a great time, and I'm definitely looking forward to coming back in July.
Fantastic. So let's move into the first question for our panelists. So rather than having somebody who's like involved with planning the summit, I thought that it would be better to hear from people who like attended and were engaged and immersed within the summit itself last year, so that you're not just, listening to me tell you how awesome it is, but it's you listening to other people who had their own experience last year. So Tamara, why did you attend the summit in 2023? That was our first ever Active Schools National Summit.
Well, I'm not a I'm not a trained PE by profession. So me entering the organization, I just had some idea of what physical education was. So attending the conference just gave me a larger view of exactly what the benefits of physical education are, not only in a PE classroom, but also in a regular classroom. So it gave me opportunity to learn new games and all the information that I can pass on to our classroom teachers that we work with every day, because sometimes they think that, hey, it's just in PE that the children need to move. So it allowed me just to get a better understanding on how I can present to my classroom teachers the benefits of the students moving every day in their class.
So I really like that point of that you can now like turnkey the stuff over. So it's not just somebody who has to take the stuff and be the only person that can utilize it, but somebody like yourself who can be the leader to go in and share it with classroom teachers and PE teachers and other people who embrace physical activities such as yourself. And what was the response when you took some of those strategies or resources back?
That it was easier to implement than they first thought. So sometimes when we think about physical activity, we think about all of this equipment and all of these, the long rules and directions, but simple movements that incorporate their daily lessons. I guess teachers didn't necessarily realize the benefits and, again, how easy it is to incorporate it in their everyday classrooms. So yes, we want to move, but we can also include the math lesson or the reading lesson that you guys are doing. So just showing them that it's, again, it's easy to implement within their classrooms and that it's something that the kids will enjoy and that they're pretty responsive to.
Nice, thank you.
Outstanding. And Tamara, too, I think, it's interesting with your role with Eat, Move, Grow, you get a lot of different components in there, not only the physical education and the classroom physical activity, but then, I'm sure you picked up plenty of things related to nutrition and health education, as well as after school programs, maybe before school programs, recess, all those different things. So I can see where it was an outstanding experience for you. Thank you so much. Hey, Keith, I know that last year you kind of took a little road trip as far as getting out there to Colorado. I followed you on social media out there and back. So you kind of turned it into a cross-country trip all the way from Georgia out to Colorado. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, I had the time, and I had never traveled out that way. So I actually packed up my car and drove from Georgia all the way over and then stopped in Texas for a few days to see family there. And then after being in Texas for a few days, headed north, saw a country that I've never been through before. It was amazing. Was able to see some bison and some things along the way. That was just a really beautiful experience. And then I wound up in, of course, Greeley to have my time there at the Active School Summit. And then I got there a day early and then stayed a day later and then drove all the way back and just did a ginormous loop all the way around through Kansas and back through Missouri and then down all the way to Georgia, back to Georgia. So worth every minute of it. Some of the times I was just like, I could not believe some of the things I was seeing out there. A lot different landscape than here, for sure.
Right. No, and it's a great way, and with most teachers having more time off during the summer, it does give you the opportunity to be able to take an adventure like that, and then enhance some of your skills in the classroom, and then
For
take
sure.
another little adventure, take a different route coming back, so you get a chance to see more and interesting places. So tell us a little bit too about going to the conference. Were you able to get any support from your school, or did you have to create all that on your own?
A lot of it was created on my own, but that it's something that I wanted to do for sure, and that I do have the full support. So when I do come back from those things, we use a lot of the information that we do for our pre-planning and post-planning at a county level. I'm one of the representatives for Cherokee County. So when I come back, I just basically send the information, that a condensed version of what I have, to my boss, and then we're able to present it. And so that's one of the things that was looking for over the summer, were things that I could do to bring back to our district to make us better and stronger. And when I was out there, I was just blown away by the dedication from the people that I was hearing from. Being from the South, a lot of the presenters that were out there were people I had never seen before or heard from before, because they were kind of more from out there, out west. So um, in the end, I was able to get a lot of resources and a lot of contacts with people, and then been able, like, everyone was so friendly about sharing their information that if I ever had a question, I was able to reach back out to some of the presenters back there and get clear, like maybe some things that I had missed at the, initially. And they sent me slides, and I was able to get a lot of information, and then I was able to teach it to the group here in Cherokee County, and then that just makes us better as a whole. So it was fantastic for that.
Outstanding. Yeah. I mean, it's nice when you're able to go to a conference, a local conference or a state conference, and make some connections there with people in your immediate area. But going to a national event puts a totally different spin on it. And like you said, you're able to make connections with people in, Washington State, from New York, from Colorado, from all these different places, and you broaden your professional learning network so much more, and you're able to see things that people are doing in different areas. So I know, and Tamara, I know you had to switch over there. Hopefully we'll be able to get you in there and get you unmuted. So, but speaking of building connections, I think that's one of the big things that is kind of neat, is you do get to make those connections, but then also too, from someone from your background, as Nick mentioned earlier, the summit welcomes anyone who has anything to do with physical activity, physical education, health education, wellness at a school. Coming from your side of the things, who were some people and what were some connections you were able to build from attending the summit?
Well, from my experience, it was mostly PE teachers, but it ran the gambit of from preschool physical education all the way to high school. So it definitely gave, because we worked with first through third graders. So it gave me a different perspective and different ideas of what to do with my little ones. But I met all the open presenters were great. So the games, the instant activities that they were able to provide for us, again, helped me sort of pitch to the teachers, like, hey, this is something that you guys can do in your classrooms. So mostly it was PE teachers, but for me, it's because it ran the gambit from, like I said, preschool all the way to high school. So it gave you a different perspective on what is required for the students and what can engage the little ones as much as the older ones. And then there was a presenter. He was the Kentucky PE Teacher of the Year. I think his name was Patrick. He was great. So just to see what he was doing inside of his classrooms at that school, and just the excitement in his voice and the way the videos he showed, and just the excitement in the kids, it just gave you a little motivation to get, ready to get back to being with the kids and what you wanted to do with them and what you could do with them to get them excited about moving and being at school and all. So, yeah.
And sometimes too, when you're at a conference like that, like you said, seeing some of the things for the older kids, the middle school and the high school kids, when you're working with those younger kids and the elementary level, and you see, okay, this is the expectation further down the line. This is what I need. This is how I need to prepare my students, or the students that I work with. I need to get them ready so that they're ready to accept, more challenges as they get to middle school and high school. Fantastic. Nick, passing things over to you.
Yeah, great. So I love what y'all are saying so far. Your communities are so lucky to have people like you who are the champions who are willing to go outside and out of your way to build those connections and collect those resources, and then to turnkey them and share them around. So thank you for being that person. I wish we had more of you. I'm going to turn it back to Keith here with a question. You were one of the first to register for this year's summit. So what was it about last year's summit, or what made you decide to come back and make that commitment so early in the process?
Well, I wanted to make sure that I had a spot there, because I know that sometimes the registration, the focus was kind of keeping it smaller, as a smaller event. And I wanted to be sure I was a part of it for sure. And I also just had a great time, honestly. Being out in Colorado was amazing. I like I said, I bookended a couple days on both ends of it for this year, to do some of the sightseeing around Greeley and some of the mountain, to get to the mountains a little bit for myself. But the connections that I made and being able to bring things back, it just recharged me, and I just absolutely loved it. And I wanted to make sure that I was part of it again this year. And I also was able to take so much of the information back here, like I was saying before. We did the family PE week, like how the card came, the bingo type format, and all the activities that they provided. We had a huge success. We actually got to celebrate those students at one of our whole school celebrations at the end of the 9 weeks. We pulled those kids up to the front. I mean, it was a big deal. And so having active schools and being a part of that was something that I had never had before. And so we were able to kind of change the culture here a little bit around active schools. And I wanted to just keep it going again this summer. So.
Yeah, and I wanted to just spotlight one of the things that you said. We intentionally keep this conference fairly small. So last year, I think we had 95 participants. And what we learned from that is that about a sweet spot. We can grow a little bit, but really to keep that close-knitness that we had throughout the general session. So even when we were all in one room for those general sessions, which are usually around where those meals that I mentioned, and then also not overloading the breakout sessions. I think that sort of made this family-like atmosphere where we can make those connections, to find those relationships, like you said, where we could reach back out and people are willing to support us, rather than just being sort of like a minnow in this sea, like we are at some larger conferences, which have their importance. Like we need big conferences, but not all the time. So I think a lot of times it's nice to have a smaller, more intimate event, such as the one that we're offering and talking about here. So I have one last question for both of you, and Tamara, we'll start with you first. What's one thing that you remember about last year that we may not have said already? Is there something out that stood out about the summit that might pique somebody's interest or convince them, if they're on the fence, as to whether or not they're going to attend in 2024?
Yes, it's hard to pinpoint one thing, but I'll try. I had a great time. I think thinking out of the box around physical activity stood out most to me. And one of the breakout sessions involved, it was a fishing, pardon me if I can't remember, but it was a fishing activity that they provided you with all of the materials for you to teach your students how to fish. The different types of fishing poles. So I live in Louisiana, and of course everybody fishes, and so it's just normal for us, but to include that as a physical activity for the students, I think would get them way more engaged than just what your typical physical activity would be. So that definitely stands out in my mind, because they let us practice with the fishing poles. They had opportunities for you to get your schools to apply for grants to receive some of those equipment to do those things at your school. So thinking out of the box around physical activity and what we could provide our students to get them more engaged and to get them more excited about moving throughout the day definitely stands out for me.
Yeah, so that was, I think, Terry Gardner, the one who you're mentioning about from Outdoor Tomorrow Foundation.
Yes, Terry, that does ring a bell. Yeah.
And yes, so we just to emphasize what you just said, we have breakout sessions from amazing program providers and exhibitors like Terry. and all the other people that were there, but also from teachers like yourselves who are both there, who are willing. So a big spectrum of opportunities there. And we try, as I mentioned, to make them relevant to all of those stakeholders. So I'm glad that you found one that has to do with the outside that you found useful. So Keith, same to you. What's one thing?
Well, there's two things I'd like to highlight that I don't think that we had mentioned fully. You mentioned it just a little bit, but I thought the food there was fantastic. I'm a big foodie kind of guy, and there was a lot of options for people. It was professionally cooked, and I love the fact that we didn't have to leave. A lot of the conferences that I'm at, there's people who you have to come and go, and so you wind up having some transition time and a lot of like maybe some lost time, and then right around that meal time, I thought the roundtable discussions during mealtime were fantastic.
Yes.
So you were able to meet a lot of new people. There was topics that were like you got to sit with topics that you wanted to converse about and or maybe learn something about. And so I had a great time. And I sat at the table with some of the international people that were there from Mexico. And just I said, tell me everything you do in Mexico that might be different than an American PE program. And we just went back and forth. I mean, time just flew because it was just back and forth and it was so amazing. So I think there's some really genuine connections there to be made if you allow yourself to have it. And the roundtable discussions were fantastic. And I'm really hopeful that continues, and just having the good meals right around built into that was top tier.
So
that's one of the
ahead,
things,
Tamara.
Nick, Nick, like you mentioned with the keeping the conference small, that's one of the things in a smaller conference that you have the ability to do is make a lot of those connections in there. And it's more personalized. You have the time to sit and talk with somebody, and with all the meals being covered, or a lot of the meals being covered, and being brought to campus right there. It gives a lot of opportunity for people to make those connections with new parts of their professional learning network. Nick?
So since I mentioned one of the vendors, exhibitors, presenters last year, I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anyone. So this was our list from last year, and a lot of these groups are coming back, and we have some new ones this year. So this conference wouldn't be possible without them. The two new ones this year that are already committed are Marathon Kids and Scholastics. And then a lot of these that you see here are already registered and returning. So they really not only add to the presenter pool to give some great and share some great programs, but also to the opportunity to just learn about the resources that are out there. Some of which are free, some of which you pay for, that are available that you can take back and utilize to promote physical activity in your schools. To Keith, one point that you said, like I know I keep talking about food, but since you brought it up again about how delicious it was, we had people from some of the barbecue hearts of America that came to this conference. I'll call one out. Jamie Sparks was one of some people who were from Barbecue USA, who said the beef brisket that was served for lunch, the lunch one on I think that was Thursday's lunch, was some of the best he's ever had. And this is at University of Northern Colorado. So I had to make sure tell the chef there about how amazing all of these people and how they raved about the beef brisket, as well as the other meals too. So we feed you well, which does all of the things that you said, allows you to stay there, allows us to have those roundtable discussions and all. So yeah.
Good deal. Well, Nick, you mentioned there just a moment ago, and we haven't really talked about it a whole lot. The conference does take place at the University of Northern Colorado there in Greeley. So can you tell us a little bit about the facility there and how the setup is?
Yeah, so it is about 55 minutes or so north of Denver. So there is a shuttle, which runs you about $24. We will try to provide some free options as well. We will have a van making limited trips to and from the airport. But if you don't catch one of those, there is a shuttle service, an affordable shuttle service available. When you get to campus, we allow you to stay on the premise, using some of the better dorms that are available. And I think that is, and I'd have to double check my stat here. I think it's $65 per night.
Yeah.
So very affordable housing that's available as compared to spending, like $250 a night at a hotel. We do have hotels which are in walking distance if you prefer that. But the University of Northern Colorado itself is a beautiful campus, not huge. So a lot of everything's within walking distance, from getting to the town and the downtown area to getting to and from the dorms and the locations. And then we have everything between two facilities. So Campus Commons and University Center, which are a stone's throw away from each other. So the one has all of the general sessions, which is like the big ballroom areas. And then the other is one of the newest buildings on campus, which has all of the smart technology and screens for presenting and nice, more comfy chairs for those that are maybe less active than some of the others. But I think all presenters tend to get people up and moving just because we want to practice what we preach. So even if they are sharing a lot of like the presentation style, we still encourage everyone to move, because we know that that's how we retain the most, and that's what we want for our students. So we might as well do that when we're providing a physical activity event such as this.
Yeah, thanks. And Nick, you covered some of the questions that were dropped in the chat about accommodations and traveling in and all that good stuff. So super helpful to have that information. And the best airport if somebody's not taking a cross-country road trip like Keith, the best airport to fly into would be Denver, correct? And then get those shuttles. Yep. Okay, good deal. And it's good to know that, if you get on the shuttle and you get there, everything's pretty much within walking distance. So you're not going to feel like, oh, I should have rented a car and just driven because I've got to go somewhere. But, hey, there's a lot of scenic areas there that you could drive around to if you did choose to do that and make a little adventure out of it, correct?
Correct. Yeah. If you are bored, then that's on you, because there's so much to do, like within the community and then outside with the hikes that are available, and take advantage of all Colorado has to offer while you're there.
And as Keith mentioned, and I spent the majority of my life in Georgia before moving out west, you do, and I did 2 cross-country drives on my move. You do get to see a lot of things, and you think that the whole world around you is kind of the way it is everywhere. And when you get outside of that comfort zone and you see some of the different things that are available across this great land of ours, the United States, it makes you stop and think a little bit about how amazing our country is, and just the landscape and geography and the way people live. So, well, I know we want to thank everyone for attending today who was able to attend live. The recording will be made available. Some of you may be watching us on the recording, and that's fine too. Nick, I know you have that valuable discount code to share with everyone to get that 20% discount. You talked a little bit about it earlier. You want to hit that again for everyone?
I'm going to hit it again. Yeah. So the promo code is dropped in. Well, the link is dropped in the box, and then I will drop the promo code in here now, so that y'all have that. But let's see, we're going to copy that. It is 20% deal. So when you use that, it is there for you, which again makes the cost just $240 as long as you register by May 3rd. So that's the deadline to take advantage of this promo code, which should be copying, and it just keeps copying the website. So it's up in the chat. 20% deal is what I'm trying to get typed in there. Are you getting it, Brian?
I think I got it for you there. Yep. Is that correct?
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yep.
And we did hit our goal here, where we're about just around a half hour, because we know how busy people are. So we fit a ton of information. Hopefully it was valuable information for those that are attending or those that are watching this recording. And if we missed something and you have a question, feel free to reach out. I'm also going to drop my email in there, so that if anything comes up after the fact, you're able to get a hold of me.
And you can also visit the website there if you wish to present at the Active Schools Summit. There's still time to put your submission in. Those are due tomorrow. As I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, I'm working on mine to get mine in to beat the deadline. And want to thank Nick for joining us today, and wish him the best of luck at the summit this year. Thank you so much, Keith. Thank you, Tamara, for joining us and sharing your stories. I think it's always great to hear from people who were there and learn from their experiences, and learn that it was a valuable experience for them to head out to the summit. So appreciate everyone's attendance today. Have a great rest of the school year if you're in school, and we hope to see you out in Greeley this summer.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Open, for hosting.